Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 213th Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Today's topic, for today's topic, we have what we call panel's choice. Each panelist will lead a discussion on a topic of their own choosing and ask the others to participate. Today's panel begins with Dr. Ronald Chamberlin, retired senior research chemist, followed by Tom Finley, retired VP of Human Resources Development at Rubbermaid Incorporated, Patty Haskins, former member of the Wadsworth City Council and the faculty of Wadsworth High, and Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. Ron, what topic would you like to have the panel chime in on today?
Folks, this is an anti-GOP rant. I've been just very disturbed in general about the actions on the federal level and on the state of Ohio level and various other places in the country. And a few specifics here. This business is going on now and nationally about the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling, and the very radical right-wing group in the Republican Party trying to hold everything ransom here, apparently. Though just today, the president says he has great hope that this won't come to part, and they are having meetings, so maybe that'll happen. But at any rate, that's something that probably really trying to bring the budget dissimulations into paying things which have already been agreed upon in last year's budget. I don't see how that can even be legal, but anyway. The second part of that is Mr. Trump, possibly the leader for the next election. Senator Al Franken was forced to resign because he was photographed in a very unwise situation, appearing to touch a woman's breast. He was forced to resign. Here we have a man who's been convicted of sexual harassment. And where's the outrage from the Republican Party at this point? There's that. No Republican who's running for office should be afraid to say, no, the election was not stolen. No, this person should not be our leader. No, we should support Ukraine over Russia. I don't hear that coming from the Republicans. Secondly, then, or thirdly, or whatever, the culture war situation, abortion and LGBTQ plus things. Now, as I've mentioned before, made my position clear. I don't care if you're pro-choice or pro-life. I think that this is a moral decision, moral and or medical decision for the person that's doing it. It has very little effect on any other part of society other than the individual involved. And I think government should stay out of it. Yet, here we are, the case about the anti-abortion pill and the FDA approval of that is in the courts now, and the appeals court in Texas right now. I believe it's Texas. We have situation going on. Ohio, Florida has just signed a 6-week heartbeat bill, as has Ohio. The one in Ohio is it's in hiatus in the courts at the moment. That's going on. I don't think it should be. I think this government should stay out of this one. People have given the argument, said, well, this fetus has been aborted. That may be the next Albert Einstein, or the next Marie Curie, and also might be the next. Yeah, could be a lot of things.
Al Capone.
It could be the next Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, you can't tell. So there's that going on, and those things that bother me quite a bit. And similarly with the gender choices or the gender biology of that, I don't see why government has to get into that to make restrictions on that. Governor DeSantis in Florida is trying to out Trump, I think, in this, and he's signed many issues. He just signed one recently that forbids diversity studies in colleges in the state of Florida. So I don't want to live there. So those are my general things about what the GOP is primarily is doing now. The business in Ohio of having the election in August, or hopefully to forestall a constitutional change, in our constitution, the state constitution. It's seems Machiavellian, and some choice it's smart politics doing an end run around it. And so now, instead of a 50% plus one vote to put an item in the Constitution and signatures from 44 counties, it's going to be 60% and 60 and 88 counties, all counties in Ohio require that, and just to try to get ahead of a probable vote on a constitutional amendment to support abortion in the state of Ohio. So again, I think that's the state messing with things that have no business messing with. So,
well, you sure know how to open multiple cans of worms. But, anybody want to comment on that?
My comment would go back to the beginning and look at the responsibilities of party and party leadership and what it stands for. And I'll just echo, I am so disappointed in the Republican lack of leadership or direction of any kind.
But I would like to mention the fact that the House did pass an increase in the debt limit, of course, with some strings attached. But yeah, right, Patty. But
it's been estimated that with McCarthy's concept that the Social Security Administration will suffer a 23% loss in funding. So there's that.
Yeah, well,
plus cuts in Medicaid, plus all types of insurance for people. Yeah, they're draconian and using that as leverage to pass the debt ceiling. Republicans have railed against that in past administrations, but now it's okay because they're the ones in control in the House.
Yeah,
and I think Patty, you bring up a good point. Is that why don't we just take that off the table? Why didn't this happen when the last time it happened? Why didn't they just all get together and say, we're not going to do this ever again? I think there's the market that I follow gives it about a 1% chance that the U.S. government is going to default on their debt. I was surprised that Janet Yellen, who as Treasury Secretary, did everything she could as Treasury Secretary to make sure that the government paid its bills and all that kind of stuff. Well, as Fed chairman, made sure the markets were all settled. But now as Treasury Secretary, she's out there basically, Chicken Little, that the sky is falling. I would agree. Let's just take the debt thing off. Let's both parties agree that we're not going to mess around with the credit rating of the United States and call into question the full faith and credit of the government with the shenanigans of brinksmanship that come along with trying to get things passed, in Washington. States can't do that. States have to deal with real money. The Fed can print money ad nauseum, and they have. So I think we should just agree that we're not going to do that anymore. But it seems to be that hammer that each party likes to use when they have the power.
Yeah. And we're moving right along now. Tom, what are your thoughts? I mean, what is your topic?
My topic would be the one we had earlier, but didn't get to, and that was the guns and the laws and the rules and the concern with the danger of that. And I want to share with you, I was 14 years old. My father taught us, my two brothers and I and my sister, how to use guns, shotguns and rifles. And this is an incident that occurred, and it's a what if. The guns were kept upstairs on where my brothers and I had the whole upstairs bedroom, and an antler, deer antler was the rack for the guns, which we had shotguns and rifles, maybe 8 of them total. In the middle of the night, my father turned on the lights, yelled up the stairs, and said, "Tom, get a gun." Now, the reason he did this, there was a knock on the door in the middle of the night. He opened it, and a man was on the outside and immediately opened the screen door and stepped inside the house. And so there was my father yelling upstairs. Now, I got the gun, a shotgun. I'm at the top of the stairs. I do not remember loading the shotgun, putting a shell in it. The man opened the same door my dad did. The lights are now on, and I'm looking at this man at the bottom of the stairs with I have a loaded shotgun. I don't remember cocking it. Fortunately, he stepped back and not forward, because I have no doubt I would have shot that gun and it would have killed him. And we were so close. He was at the bottom of the stairs, and this was a shotgun. Now, he fled the house. The state patrol was called. They found him. He was a deranged man who escaped from the institution, and da-da-da-da. So what if he had stepped forward instead of back? The impact of guns in that incident, it begs the what if, the danger of. Should there be? We were going to have this as a topic, as you know, but the first thing that came to mind when John said this was that thing that happened to me at 14, and how it could have changed my life if I had killed a man.
Is your point being that the shotgun should be outlawed?
I'm sorry?
Is your point that shotgun...
Well, guns in the house, guns in the hands of public,
should be outlawed?
Yeah. Should there be?
I would make the argument, Tom, that your dad felt threatened. He called to you to get the gun. He felt threatened with that person coming to the door, and that guy advanced into your home.
He did.
Now, I don't know what I wasn't, I don't know what time that was, if it was the middle of the night or...
It was the middle of the night.
Middle of the night, a pounding comes to the door, your dad goes to the door, the guy advances into your home. I think anyone would feel threatened and would feel relieved that they had at least, now maybe not in the hands of a 14-year-old, but the notion that you don't have the right to protect yourself in your own home, I would totally reject that argument. I don't believe that at all. I think that if someone comes to your door and comes into your home, and you just said that the guy was deranged, who knows? Your dad didn't know. He could have had an axe. He could have had a hammer. He could have had a gun. I mean, I don't believe this notion that somehow we have to, take all the guns away from the public and we'll be safe. I think the people that will have the guns are the deranged people and the criminals that have guns. Now, I'm for a sensible permitting process. I'm for a sensible education process. We had, when I was growing up, most of the farmers, there was a shotgun in the rack in the back of their truck. Now I never, we had a 22 that my dad had in the house, but we never felt like we were going to play with it. I mean, that was a fate worse than death. But I can't go along with this notion that we just take all the guns away from people and everybody's going to be safe. It's unfortunate that you were put in that predicament, but your dad felt threatened and he called to you to get the gun. I don't see anything wrong with that.
You don't know what the guy was going to do. The gun made him back up.
Well, exactly. Yeah. If he was deranged, now if a knock comes at the door and it's Patty, I'm not going to call out to get a gun, and say, "Come on in. What's wrong, Patty?" But
it happens. One just recently where a young man comes to the door and gets shot, because the homeowner, here's a black kid outside my white house and my white person's house. I'm going to shoot the guy, and he did. And the other couple of people pulled into the wrong driveway, got shot at.
Patty, it's your turn. What is your topic?
My topic is Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Depending upon what station you listen to, you may not have heard all of this, but it was recently revealed that Clarence Thomas has received over $10 million from a billionaire conservative donor in the form of very lavish vacations, purchasing of homes and then supplying a home for his mother to live in forever, all kinds of gifts that in and of itself could be looked upon as dangerous, in the fact that these are gifts to a Supreme Court justice, by the fact that he's also not reporting these gifts, stating that he didn't think he had to do it if it was from a friend. Well, he has this friend because of his position. My concern with this is not just this particular justice, but the fact that we have a Supreme Court that have life appointments. And the checks and balances seem to fall by the wayside when it comes to the Supreme Court. And when you have, and I understand the original founders of the Constitution did this so that supposedly our Supreme Court would be unbiased and that they would not be representative of a political party. But that's not the case anymore. We definitely know the bias of judges. And when we see money coming into play, as it does in all politics, and as far as influencing people, there are concerns of this. I mean, there was recently a case where it was brought when they were trying to get emails released and documents released concerning the January 6th uprising. And the Supreme Court ruled all in favor of releasing these, with the exception of Clarence Thomas. And lo and behold, it's found that some of those messages that were sent during that time were from his wife, Ginny Thomas, to Mark Meadows, saying what type of action should be taken by Trump and so forth. And I'm sure that Clarence Thomas knew that his wife's messages were in there and were going to be in there. And instead of recusing himself from this, he makes a decision and votes against it. I guess overall, what I look at is perhaps we need to start looking at whether the Supreme Court should be a lifetime appointment or not. We also perhaps need to look at ways in which to better police or have some sort of checks and balances upon the Supreme Court over what we have right now. I hear so much news about activist judges, and it's usually pointed at the left and how they're doing this and doing that, when we have an extreme activist judge on the Supreme Court right now who perhaps is being influenced by money from a conservative and who has made decisions that would cause that person to profit. These are things that we need to look at. And very honestly, I would say this, whether it was the right or the left.
I think you're totally correct. And I believe in my soul, Clarence Thomas should do the honorable thing and just resign.
Yeah.
Bryan, what are your thoughts today? You've got about 7 minutes.
Me?
What was that, Ron?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bryan.
Hey, I just want to thank my friends, Patty and Ron, for crossing those party lines and voting for my wife. And you'll be blessed beyond measure as time goes on with a good, sound, well-run community that's not going to get jerked around in some measure by some of the cronies that were lined up on the other side of the aisle. Now, to the point that Patty made about Clarence Thomas, I think we need to extend that to every member of Congress and every senator. If you have a federal position, you should divest everything you have, forget the blind trust, forget that all that stuff. You go to cash, period. If you're going to be in there 4 years, if you're going to be in there 8 years, 6 years, 40 years, you go to cash, because it is an abomination that a senator or a congressman can go into Congress practically bankrupt and end up with $25, $30, $40 million at the end of the day. And we can point out people on both sides of the aisle, starting with Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein. You can look at other people on the right as well.
How about Joe Biden?
That too. If you
George Santos.
Or Santos, exactly. That guy should be driven out on a rail. I agree 100%. So let's not say that this is a right or left issue. Let's just say that it's good governance, that you can't have a conflict. In my business, if you watch CNBC or any of these things, someone gets on and starts talking, they have a list on the side of your conflicts. Do you own the stock? Does your company own the stock? Does your family members own the stock? I mean, let's take some of those same rules and apply them to the Senate and to Congress and members of Congress. And every time they do, they get shot down. Insider trading is, it is a rat's nest when it comes to insider trading. I can't imagine there's not people screaming from the housetops when someone that sits on a particular committee has either bought or sold in a particular industry right before the vote has been taken. And they fall back on, well, it was in a blind trust. There's nothing blind anymore about a blind trust. If you're married or whatever, it's not blind.
Yeah.
Okay. That's ridiculous. You go to
even
cash.
As a council member,
Exactly.
I had to fill out a financial report every year. The unfortunate part is people are like in Thomas's case, they're just simply not declaring it.
Right.
And that gets by, or there's a slap on the wrist.
And that's wrong. Right. I mean, if we're going to start cleaning house, we got to look at the whole problem with money influencing our elected officials. You know, we can't have it. But I really didn't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the problem we're having at the border. And this is an issue that both sides need to come to grips with, because with the expiring of Title 42, over the last several weeks, there have been, hordes of people. One town had 18,000 people waiting to flood the border. Now, there have been little steps taken, but they're all being challenged in court. The Biden administration put together a package, and it's now being challenged in court. You know, they want to have like mini embassies, over 100 in all these different countries where they're coming from. If you come through a country, let's say you live in Honduras and you come through Mexico, the new rule would be, or they go back to Title 8, that basically saying you're gone. You know, you're not staying, and you can't come back for 5 years. And they're fighting that now. I think we really need to look at this, because we are being overrun on our southern border, and our border states are being overrun, and they're required to educate those kids. Arizona, Texas, parts of California are just their little towns are just they're not their little towns anymore. I think we really have to look at that and come to some sort of agreement that we have to have a secure border. We have to be able to determine who comes in, like every other country out there. And I've said this 10,000 times. Two of my kids served church missions overseas, one in Germany and one in Spain. They were required to have their paperwork with them at all times. When my daughter went to the post office to pick up her mail, she was in essence carded. She couldn't get her mail without proving she was in the country legally. In Spain, multiple times. Now, maybe it was because they were missionaries for our church and they stuck out like a sore thumb that they were being, I wouldn't say harassed, but every other day when you're stopped by the police asking for your papers and checking to make sure that you're here legally in Spain or, or in Germany, I don't know why we have a problem in this country doing that. It's every other country treats immigration much differently than us. Nobody has an open border. Nobody does. But here we sit and we can't come to grips with it. So that's the issue that I think we need to tackle if we're going to go forward and actually have a country.
Don't you think it all has to do with how some people think immigrants eventually will vote?
Let's take the politics out of it.
Oh, I wish we could.
I wish we could, but our system to taking care, the safety net that we have is broken. We cannot take care of, all these people that are coming in as they disperse throughout the country. I mean, they shipped how many up to New York City? They put a couple out there in Long Island, and boy, they were screaming. They put 30 people out there in Long Island and they went apoplectic. How are we going to take care of these people? How would you like to feel if you're Matamoros or one of these Texas little towns that 18,000 people descended on your town? What would it be like if Wadsworth was a border town and 18,000 people showed up at your doorstep? How do you take care of them?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to call a halt to it right now because we've run out of time. However, I would like to repeat a quote that I heard this week that is stuck in my brain. We get what we vote for, period. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, John.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.